Okay, this is video number 3 of Zoho campaigns training. And in this video, we're going to specifically talk about how to create a campaign and what is the difference between creating a campaign, an email campaign, and using a workflow with drip funnels. So campaigns on the left-hand side, and we click create a regular campaigns. In this video, I do not talk about social or advanced campaigns or SMS campaigns. They will be in later videos. So in Zoho campaigns, click on regular campaigns, and then we click here and we want to create a campaign up in the top right-hand corner. And in here, this is where we get to start creating the campaign. So what is it going to be called? I'll just call this one Ardento YouTube. And we'll go save. And then we want to give the email a subject line. So you can bring in personalization by bringing in the contact's first name, and it will bring in those placeholders from before. And then we can say, great to meet you. And you've got a pre-header as well, as it explains there. And then we go save. Then we've got the sender. So who is sending the email campaign? So remember in the previous video, I spoke about you can create video email addresses in which the emails look like they come from. So info at and hello at and things like that. So we need to tell it who it's coming from. In this instance, it will just be from, say, Ben at demo@ardento.com.au. So go save. Just keep in mind with this as well, if you want to get real personalized, there is the Zoho CRM owner address. What that means is in Zoho CRM, if you were to look at the record in here, depending on what type of business you are, you may or may not use the field, but there is this thing in here called an inquiry owner. And that is the person who is a user of the Zoho CRM system, and they are the owner of this record. Same thing if we go to contacts, opportunities, companies, etc. There is a contact owner, and then it is a user of the Zoho system, okay? And in there, what this is defining, if you do use this in Zoho in CRM, is that this is kind of like the account manager or the person who is in charge of this contact, account, company, opportunity, whatever it is, or deal, whatever it is that you're working on, or even the lead, who is the one that's responsible on a daily basis to manage that record. And that's what the owner is in Zoho CRM. So in Zoho campaigns, you could even set this to be the Zoho CRM owner address, so that way it's not even just coming from some generic email called info@ardento.com.au. It's actually coming from someone who they believe is working at that organization with them. So it's just a little bit more personalized, and you may have a bit more success in the open rates. The next one is add contacts you want to send this email to. This is a very important one, and this will kind of touch base back on your mailing list as well. So first of all, you click on add. And remember, we created this one here called all contacts, and there was 25 of them that was synced over. But that's all well and good for us to have, all of our contacts in this one list. But a lot of people always say to me, well, that's great. I've got all these contacts in one list, but I actually don't want them all in one list. I want them in multiple lists, and I want to be able to kind of segment them out. And I want to create ones that are interested in, videos, and ones that are interested in cars, and ones that are interested in investments. And so the way you do that, or ones that came from Facebook, etc., whatever the lead source is, right? And what you do is there's these things called segments, and you can create segments for two ways. You can either go back into the original list that we had before into manage lists, and you can create it there, or you can do it from here. And what you do is you click on create segment, and this screen pops up, and you call the segment a name. And it might be like the last, you might just say Facebook adverts or something like that. And then you go down here and then you choose the lead source, which I don't believe I've got in here. So we'll just use something else for the time being as an example. I don't really have anything else to use as an example. And then you say is, and then whatever the value is. And then that way you're creating a segment of those contacts. You can add more options. You can have and or in these options, and you can keep building out the segments. I've already done one, so I'm just going to go back and show you what I've done. I created a segment called Ben is first name. So what I wanted to do is basically say, go through my contacts and find anyone who is Ben that has their name, their first name in the contact list as Ben. And I've done that one, and that is it there. Now, there is only one contact in that list. You can't actually see from this here, but you will see it afterwards if I go back. You can select just that segment inside that list. So we're not even selecting the 25 people, we're just selecting the segment in there. Or you can select all contacts. And there's no need to select all contacts or the segments because you would never do that. It doesn't make any sense because you're just selecting all of them anyway. You can select multiple lists in here. So you can say, well, this newsletter is going to be for everyone. So I'm going to bring all of them in, and you can do that as well. And you can just simply remove them by clicking the X. And we can go down here and then click save. And then we can go down here and click create content. And this is where we get to design the templated email. Save templates are ones that you've saved in the past. Pre-designed templates are ones that Zoho themselves have created. As you can tell, I'm creating this video around the COVID-19 stuff at the moment, so there's lots of professional email updates already in the system from them, which is fantastic to see. They'll help you out wherever they can. But we've got things like Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas and other welcome email addresses and Thanksgiving, etc. So you could choose one of these default template ones if you really wanted to, just to kind of get you started. Or you can go back here and just choose the basic template. The basic template is just kind of like this layout. So it's going to give you like a big image area at the top. It's going to give you just some like a text area that you can start typing in, and you can kind of choose the type of layout of an email that you were after. Okay, and maybe we'll just choose this one here, for instance. You select that template, and then it will load you into an editor. Now, if we went back on that previous screen, I'm just going to just close out of here. If we were to, some clients want to have the ability to be able to kind of upload their own email templates from other systems like Campaign Monitor or MailChimp, etc., or maybe they've got their own one designed. There is an option on that previous screen to actually go back and upload as a HTML file. You'll see that on the previous screen. I can't go back for you, but if you were to do that, please keep in mind you will not be able to keep editing that HTML email in this editor in here that we're in. You will always have to go into the hard code and edit it all the time, and it will become very time consuming. So if you do have email templates that are from some other system, and you can't migrate them over using some type of migration tool, and you have to recreate them from scratch, just recreate them from scratch using this tool here, because moving forward, it'll just make your life so much easier. Obviously, you can just click on these and you can change the heading. If this is an image, you click on the image and then you can click change on the left. You can click on the photo option here and start uploading images. You can type in these fields here. They're all just text fields. And then we've got the social media links down the bottom and things like that. Zoho Campaigns has literally come a long way in the last 12 to 18 months, and there's some really cool stuff. I.e., one of the really cool things is this thing here called dynamic. And this dynamic view here basically allows you to create one campaign for multiple people. So let's say, for instance, you've got males and females, and maybe you sell shaving cream and shavers of a certain type to a male, and then you've got certain shaving creams and shavers for females. Then maybe you might just want to create the one email campaign with both shavers on the screen. But if they're a male, then you'll only show them the male shavers, and if they're a female, then you'll only show them the female shavers. And what you can do is you can do that by using this dynamic conditions with the if statement here. And if you're bringing in the male or the sex field, then you can define that using this, and it will actually hide a whole section based on obviously the field type and that criteria, which is pretty cool. Saves you having to create two separate email campaigns for males and females, etc. So you can go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and just click save and next on this campaign. And then obviously now we get to send it for review. So up the top here, it'll be in here that you've got to send it off for review. The reason why is Zoho really wants to make sure that the people that are using the Zoho campaign system are using it wisely, and they're not sending out, incorrect material to people, i.e. political views and demeaning emails, obviously online, or anything racial or, discriminative, obviously, to other humans. So they want to check the email before it goes out. If you're just a regular business selling normal stuff, you should be perfectly fine. But they will just send it off to a AI bot, and the computer AI bot will kind of interrogate the email to find anything malicious in there. If it does, then it will send it off for a human review. But usually you get these reviews back within 1 minute to 15 minutes is the longest I've ever seen them go for. And once they come back, you can then send the campaign straight from there. So the difference between campaigns and sending just a regular email campaign, which is basically what we just did then, as opposed to automation workflows. A lot of people are very interested in saying that, okay, when a new lead or an inquiry comes into my Zoho system, I want them immediately put into like a drip campaign, an automatic email funnel. And the way to do that is basically we set up the sync to the inquiries module, which is what I showed you in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, then go back and watch the synchronization video. And then you sync the inquiries to a mailing list. And then what we do is we set up automation. So we go in here and we create a workflow. And I'm just going to go back and see if this one here is half decent or not. Yeah, this one's pretty good. We'll run with this one. So you'll set up a new workflow. And basically, there are some types of ones that you can choose. I will just go in here and show you like some basic demo. But essentially here we have like this 10-day welcome series. That's a good one to use, or a simple nurture. Okay, so there's already some basic templated ones in here for you to use. So if we were to look at this one and say like, what's a simple nurture look like? We can say like, show us a preview. And basically this is what it is. So on this screen here, if we go into the actual one, we'll just say we're going to use it. On form submission, okay, or on list entry. So remembering that there's two ways people can end up into a mailing list, right? Which is the people that we're going to be talking to. The first way that they're going to end up is either submitting some information on a form saying that they are interested in this email content, or the other one is that they end up in the mailing list. and somehow they end up in that list, either through a form or they end up through it because you integrated it into there, you imported the data, or maybe they submitted an online inquiry to your website, came through as an inquiry, and then you have told Zoho campaigns to sync to this list as soon as someone is added as a new inquiry the next day when it does a periodic sync. They'll end up in here as in the list, and you'll need to select which specific list this person is going to be part of. And in this instance, I just chose the contacts list. We have this on form submission one in here as well. If that makes sense to you, then leave it. If not, we'll delete it for this example. And what we're saying here is as soon as a contact has been added to the all contacts list, then begin the process. And this here has no delay. So it means that once they fill out that form and they go on here, and then Zoho Campaigns syncs with Zoho CRM and brings in Peter Griffin here, it's going to bring him in within seconds at 4 a.m. in the morning with no delay, and it is going to send them this email. And what this means is create a message. What that means is create a campaign. Send them an email campaign. And then you go in here and you create your email campaign in here. Do not create email campaigns in the other screen. It actually gets a little hard because if you haven't saved the template, then you don't have one to choose from. If you are going to create campaigns from the previous view that we just did before, where we create an individual campaign, you want to send one of them, please make sure you save it as a template, and then you can access it from this workflow. If you don't save it as a template and you've just saved it as a campaign, you will not be able to reuse the campaign. You'll need to save the email as a template, because in Zoho's eyes, this here is its own campaign. This here is its own campaign down here, sorry. And then further on down, you can add more campaigns. So technically they're separate campaigns because they're separate emails going out at separate times. And then there's this thing called a response. The response is really great. So this is all about automation, right? So we have this thing here called a response, which pops up at the bottom of this. And if you don't know how to get this stuff on the screen, it's on the left-hand side. So we can drag in send email, and you can see here that those two things look the same. And in this one here, we have this thing called a response. And then this one doesn't. And that's because this checkbox is here. So if we check the checkbox, we can start saying we want to have a response in here, and it will allow us to put a response in. So I'm just going to delete that one now that we spoke about that. If I remember how to delete. There it is there, my bad. Okay, so once we've got a response in here, we can say that if it's unresponsive, wait 1 hour and then do this. If it's open, then there'll be no delay, and then you kind of get given a score, and each contact can receive a score, and then it will keep going down. And look, you can go real crazy with these workflows and drip campaigns. You can score people, you can add tags, you can do these conditions and reminders, and you can do these split tests. You can send out SMSs if your SMS gateway is set up through here. It gets very, very, very complex. For the average person, you're probably not going to do it. You'll probably just create some standard like 3 or 4 emails to go out at a certain time based on some event. And then at the end of that, you might move them to a new mailing list. However, for anyone who's more advanced, if you've done this stuff before and you're in marketing, this will make sense to you. And yes, pretty well all of the options are here. You are really not limited in Zoho campaign workflows at all. It will nearly do everything you want it to do. In some instances, there are some blockages, but you'll find that it will be very, very smooth. We can even send out Zoho surveys as well, like a survey campaign using Zoho surveys. And the other one is you can add people to another list as well. So I think we've got to try to remember where it is here, but we can add them to a new list. So you exit them from the workflow. or you can move them to another workflow. The best thing to do is do two things. Either move them to a new workflow using this one, or you add them to a new mailing list. So you can do either or. It won't matter which one you do. But if you can add them to a new mailing list, it will do the same thing again as well. Okay, here we go. It's right here, list-based actions. So you can add them to another list and you can remove them from a list. So the things I've done in the past is I've kind of said, all right, well, after this email goes out, if we didn't get a very good experience with this, then what we'll do is we'll remove them from this list, okay? And then we're gonna add them. I've just done that, great. We're gonna add them to this list here. So they'll go into this workflow because they were added to the mailing list. And then what's going to happen is they're going to be added to a new mailing list. And then that's the end of that workflow. What it will do is it'll move them to a new workflow because they got added to a new list. So that will allow you to do that. This, as I've always said in the past, whenever dealing with workflows and drip campaigns, start small and start with about 3 emails over 2 or 3 workflows. It's the best way to get started, and then that way you can start building on them as you go forward. And this is not only just for inquiries, you can do this for contacts as well, for any mailing list in the system. Once you finish with the workflow, and remembering as well, because each one of these create messages is a campaign, yes, you do have to get these ones approved as well. So you have to create the campaign, get them approved, and then they sit in the workflow. And then remembering that whenever we finish working on one of these workflow canvases, we will have to activate it. So up in the top right-hand corner, there's an activate button. You will have to activate it before you can use it. And also this view here that we're looking at the moment is kind of the view mode. So you can kind of go through here and click on things at certain points. It will even, if this was a true workflow and it was fully running, on the left-hand side, there is a status panel and it will tell you how many people are in the workflow and where they're all at and who are those people. And remembering that you must activate the workflow. After all of the campaigns have been approved, you can then activate the workflow. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this 3-video training session on Zoho campaigns. If you would like more of this content, please obviously subscribe and comment down below. Ardento are a Zoho support partner. We are an advanced partner. We work with Zoho every single day with lots of businesses around Australia. If you feel like you're struggling or you need help with Zoho, feel free to reach out to us at our website at ardento.com.au. and have a look at our site and fill out our Zoho form that's on our website, and you'll go into our Zoho CRM and we will contact you accordingly. Thank you and take care.